Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. As you can see from the title of this video, this is going to be my birth story video. My birth, I don't know how to phrase that, the birth of our second baby and our first son. We have a daughter, Jude, and our son's name is Lev. If you're new to my channel, if you're not new, you know this information. I decided that I would do more of a birth story versus like a birth vlog, which is more what I did with Jude, and that's because I went into the birth of Jude not really knowing what was going to go on, versus with Lev, I did have a scheduled C-section, so I kind of knew what was going on, and there's only so much you can film when you're doing a scheduled C-section. So I kind of thought I would go through everything. If you watch my hospital bag video, you know that I was hoping to have a VBAC. A VBAC stands for vaginal birth after C-section. So with Jude, I was induced at 39 weeks and 3 days and was in labor for about 2 days, and then I ended up having a C-section with her. And so my goal with Lev was to hopefully have a vaginal birth after a C-section, but that did not happen, unfortunately. But then also, I don't know, and you'll see as I go through everything, I did not want a repeat C-section, but at the end of the day, I think it was what was best, and I ended up having a much better experience than I had with Jude, which was what kind of made me it was what made me very afraid of a C-section. I was afraid of a C-section with Jude. After the experience, it made me even more scared, and so I really wanted to avoid having one. And then I also really didn't want to experience having a vaginal birth again, and I even asked for like prayers, asked for manifestations, and ask for like, if you believe in the universe, God, whatever, kind of to throw out those good thoughts. And you might say like, oh, it didn't work, but the way I view it is I was hoping for a birth that I thought would be a better experience than I had with Jude, and I got just that. So if you think that your prayers or like your manifestations went to waste, I disagree. I think it ended up definitely benefiting. Anyway, that was a very long intro. I have a bunch of notes on my phone because I'm filming this. Corey said, what's going on up there? I'm filming. But yeah, I took a lot of notes. Lev is 3 weeks old today, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't forgetting things. You can definitely skip around in this video if you're not interested in everything, but it's really important to me to have like this visual memory, visual and auditory memory, and then to show Lev one day. I think that'll be really special. So the first thing I have written down was that I spoke about this a little bit in my third trimester update video, was that I started losing my mucus plug. I started losing my mucus plug 8 days before my due date, and then I got a membrane sweep, and so at that time you can't get a membrane sweep unless you're a little bit dilated, so I was a centimeter dilated, and then 2 days later like a big chunk of my mucus plug came out. I remember because I was running around the house in the morning cleaning, and then when I went to take a shower, like a big chunk came out. So I was hopeful that that meant that things were progressing. With Jude, I never had that big of a chunk fall out, and so yeah, I was definitely very hopeful. I knew that I had up until a certain point to go into labor by myself before the scheduled C-section. I ended up getting a bunch of membrane sweeps. I think I got four or five before having Lev, because membrane sweeps are one of the things to help you go into labor. I tried basically everything. I tried sex. This is another thing that's like one of the like more sure things. We're having sex like every day. Bunch of walks, bunch of exercises, specific exercises on YouTube to go into labor, bouncing on the ball. I tried spicy food. I tried castor oil, which I would not recommend to my worst enemy. That just made me have the worst diarrhea and like extreme throwing up in the shower. Like our shower is here and our bathroom's like here, and I couldn't even make it to the toilet. Like that's how it was like projectile. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend castor oil if someone tells you to try it and it obviously didn't work for me. Maybe go try for other people. Did red raspberry leaf tea, dates, the whole 9 yards. I tried everything and I just did not go into labor. So we ended up going in on Wednesday, and that was the day before I turned 41 weeks. That was the longest I was allowed to go. I actually originally had my C-section scheduled for Monday, and I pushed it back because I just wanted to wait as long as possible to try to go into labor naturally. Didn't happen. The C-section was scheduled for 10:30 a.m. so we had to be at the hospital at 8:30 a.m. just 2 hours before. As I said, I was just very nervous because of my experience with Jude. The recovery was very painful. The actual experience itself, I felt like I honestly, and this might be a little bit morbid. I remember thinking like, I'm not sure if I'm dying. Like I just, yeah, it was not great. I fully passed out and like didn't come back until Jude was born. It was even like shaking, and just, you can go back and watch that birth video. I think I inserted a few clips. So yeah, Wednesday morning, I woke up Jude for the last time before having 2 babies.
You're gonna go back to sleep? What is going on, girl? Good morning.
Corey always makes fun of me because he's like, you're so nostalgic about like such little things. But I think there's something special about being like that. I think it makes it easier for me to hold on to memories because of that. Like, I knew that would be the last time I would wake her up as an only child, and I wanted to savor that memory. And then my mom came over at 8 a.m. to watch Jude, and Corey and I headed out. And then this started kind of the whole trek into having just such a better experience once we were checked in. So when you have a scheduled C-section, you check in and they do like all your vitals, all baby's vitals, make sure everything is fine, make sure that you don't have preeclampsia or anything like that. And the nurse we had, it was actually her last day, this very sweet elderly woman. She was so nice. We didn't know it was her last day until it was almost the time for me to go in, and another nurse came and she said like, I don't know if she told you, but it's her last day. And she just went on this whole rant about how wonderful this woman is, and she really was wonderful. I already felt so much more at peace once she came in and we were chatting with her, and just such a lovely person, such good energy. I'm definitely affected by the people around me and the energy around me, and I could just feel that she was a lovely person. We went deep into like, I don't know, she spoke about her daughter, and her daughter actually was an attorney, and she started like tearing up when the other nurse came in to say it was her last day, and I was like, you got the wrong girl, because if you start crying, I will absolutely start crying. So I started tearing up. It was very sweet. And so after all that, I went into the actual OR, the operating room, and when at least at my hospital, I go in by myself, and then Corey comes in later. And that was the only time that I kind of felt a little bit off. I kept thinking that they would forget to tell Corey to come in, and so I was getting just very nervous. But even then, again, the people around were just so nice. The anesthesiologist, fantastic at her job. I love people that are good at their jobs, because I honestly, this might sound rude, but I think there are so many people that are just not good at their job, especially in the medical field. For whatever reason, the medical field, it's like they're struggling. I don't know, maybe they might be good at the actual science and like the actual work, but when it comes to bedside manner and tact in general, a lot of the medical field is just not it. But this anesthesiologist was so great. She actually went back at my records when I had Jude, and she was telling me that like the anesthesiologist, he was pumping you with so many things, like trying to get you regulated. And so it makes sense that like you were just not feeling well. I guess, I can't remember if she said a medication that he gave me either results in memory loss or was purposefully for memory loss. I didn't know such a medication existed, but she was even surprised that I remembered anything from the C-section because of that medication. But anyway, something that was really good about her was that I remember after I got the spinal and epidural, and I guess if you don't know how that works, so the epidural, I think, is what everyone knows. It's what you get when you're in labor and like it's just too much pain. And I got an epidural with Jude while I was in labor, And when you get the epidural and you then have a C-section later, they just kind of use the epidural. They don't give you an additional thing. But when you have a scheduled C-section, they'll often give you a spinal and an epidural. They work a little bit differently, but then also well together. And if you're afraid of getting like a spinal epidural, the shot itself doesn't hurt. They give you a local anesthetic and then they put it in. I personally think it doesn't hurt. I don't think most shots hurt though. So maybe that is just me, but I would say it's nothing compared to like contractions. But yeah, what I was saying, the reason I love the anesthesiologist is because so at one point I started to feel kind of nauseous, and I didn't say anything at first. I was just kind of like, I can just deal with it. I don't know why, but I noticed she was just like looking at me. She was like, and then I finally said, I was like, I'm feeling nauseous. And I saw her like doing something. She's like, oh yeah, I could tell, like you should be feeling better now. Just like a fantastic, very observant, just so good at her job, and just made me feel so relaxed. They did not forget to bring Corey in. So Corey did come in after the spinal and the epidural. And I think the actual C-section started maybe like 10:50, maybe like right before 11. When the actual OB came in, also a wonderful OB. So my practice has OBs and midwives, and he was one of my favorite OBs of the practice. Lev was born at 11:21. I just remember feeling overwhelmed with like love and joy, the same way I felt with Jude. There is nothing even comparable to like seeing your baby for the first time, hearing your baby for the first time, hearing the doctor say like your baby's here. There's nothing like it. And I remember, so like my first thought was just like, oh my gosh, like so I just feel so like overwhelmed with love and joy. And then I remember looking at the OB and he looked so joyful too, which I would think when that's your job to deliver babies, that like you don't kind of feel that overwhelming joy. When I even see, like if I watch birth videos on YouTube, I cry every single time. I think it's so special. But I would think if that was your profession, it would kind of like wear off in a way. But he looked so like just happy and overwhelmed. The whole OR was like, oh my gosh. And they're like, oh, my big boy. Like they're trying to take guesses on his weight. Like just so funny, so nice. And then my thought after that was like, he looks just like Jude. Now I definitely see differences between Lev and Jude. They still look very similar, but especially like when Lev was born in that first week or so, twins, they look so similar. I didn't know if they were going to look similar or complete opposite, so I was just like shocked. I was like, he looks like Jude. And yeah, of course I cried because I cry very easily, and of course my baby being born, I'm gonna cry. Something that's very happy for me, I was able to do skin to skin immediately. I think this is now something that is shifting in the medical field. Before, when people got C-sections, it was very common that like skin to skin wasn't even offered. For Jude, for me, it wasn't offered. I also wasn't like in the state to hold her because I was quite shaky, but I wish they had just placed her on me. Like I didn't have to actually hold her, like someone could have supported. But with Jude, I basically just got to like stroke her face and see her, but I didn't get that immediate skin to skin. And I loved that I got that with Lev, like while they were stitching me up and like, I guess I shouldn't say stitching. While they were sewing my whole stomach, uterus, everything back up, he was just like laying on me. I was crying, and just so special. That immediate skin to skin is so special. And the reason skin to skin is advised is that it's so good for baby. Breastfeeding is usually more successful that way. Bonding is more successful that way. Baby stays warm and healthier. There are just so many benefits of skin to skin. So I was sad I didn't get that with Jude, and very happy that I got that with Lev. I also got to the recovery room a lot quicker than I did with Jude. I remember with Jude, I looked back at photos that Corey had taken, and I looked at the timestamp, and I remember it being like 9 something, and I was like, what the heck? Like I was in the OR for that long, because Jude was born at 7:16. So to not be in the recovery room until like 9, I was just like, and like when I was there, it felt very quick, but it was just so weird. Versus with Lev, did I write it down? Yeah, I got to the recovery room within 1 hour of him being born. I didn't lose nearly as much blood as I did with Jude. The only thing that the OB, I remember, said to me in the operating room, and then actually he went and told Corey separately, which I do appreciate, like just in case I was in the right state of mind and forgot. I appreciate that like he took the time to go to the recovery room and tell Corey, because while they're stitching me up, so I feel like I'm hopping all around even with my notes. Once Lev was born and after the skin to skin and stuff, Lev and Corey went to the recovery room, and then like while they're finishing me up, I was by myself again, which was fine. I felt fine. It wasn't like scary. With Jude, I remember feeling a little bit scared. But yeah, the OB told me that my uterus was very thin and just like very stretched out. We have very big babies. Lev was 10 pounds, 13 ounces. Jude was 10 pounds, 4 ounces. Lev was in my womb a lot longer, not a lot longer, but significantly longer than Jude, like almost 2 weeks longer. And so it makes sense that he was bigger. The whole pregnancy, he was actually tracking like 2 pounds below, 2 pounds behind Jude. So I wonder if he had been born around 39 weeks, if he would have been less or not. Anyway, the OB said my uterus was very thin, so if we were to have additional children, that I would definitely have to do a planned C-section in probably around a 38, 39 week mark, just to make sure that my uterus doesn't rupture, which again is, maybe Lev knew better than me, maybe God knew better than me, maybe the universe knew better than me, that going into labor was just not safe for me because my uterus likely would have ruptured with all the contractions of it being so thinned out already. I think we said this in the Baby Names We Love and May Use video. We were like 90 to 95% sure we were done having kids. Another thought I had once Lev was born, I was like, oh, this is so weird that this will be the last time. So I'd say I'm more around 80 to 85% now. We'll see how that goes. I think the newborn stage is honestly one of the easiest stages. I know people either very heavily agree or very heavily disagree, but as Lev gets older and more is like Jude's age, like running around, we'll see how I feel. Because I just think toddlers take a lot more attention in a different way. Newborns are more all encapsulating, but like not as tiring. Encapsulating, I don't know if that's the right word, but not as like tiring in that sense. But toddlers are just like a lot of energy, a lot of like, there's just a lot. Anyway, you know, if you're a parent. A few other notes after the fact. We moved to our actual room.
You want to be in a video like this? Okay. Why don't you show your bed?
My bed? Sure, the people are very interested. Oh. Oh. Boob.
And that was when I found out that Jude was not allowed to come visit the hospital. For whatever reason, they limited at 12 and under, and 12 and over. And I cried because I was expecting to be able to see Jude later, and then that also told me that I wouldn't be able to see her until Friday in person. And I've never been away from Jude, definitely not overnight. I've been away from her for like a few hours, but that's really it since she's been born. And so that was sad. So I decided that I actually wanted Corey to go back home every night. We live very close to the hospital, like 10 minutes away. So he went home every like Wednesday night and Thursday night to like put her down for bed. I think he went at some point Thursday morning too, just to say hi. And like, she was so happy to see him. When I FaceTime her, she was so happy to see me. She was like, Mama, Mama. Corey and I were talking about how it was nice in a way to be in the hospital with no visitors. Yeah, so we ended up not having any visitors because I wanted Jude to be the first person to meet Lev. And it was nice in a way. With Jude, we had my mom and sister come and my best friend, and that was it. I didn't want any other additional people, but it was nice to just kind of have that special time with just Corey, me, and Lev. And so, yeah, just special bonding time. I was the only person to hold him in his like very early days other than Corey, and I think that's something special about that. I feel like this video is getting a little long now, so I'm gonna go quicker. I had that my milk came in much quicker than with Jude. Lev did not lose as much of his body weight as Jude did. With Jude, we were in the hospital for 3 days. With Lev, I requested to leave after 2, and that was fine because both Lev and I were doing great after 2. That was something that I feel like, because my experience was so much better, my recovery was so much better, just overall, my recovery with the C-section has been 10 times better. With Jude, I don't think I even got out of the hospital bed until like they made me, because they were gonna take the catheter out and like they need to make sure I could pee and stuff. versus with Lev, like I was ready to walk around, like I was walking around the whole hospital floor. When I left the hospital with Lev, instead of being in a wheelchair, like I walked down the whole hospital, like down the floor, down to the car by myself. They kept being like, do you want a wheelchair? Do you want a wheelchair? I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, just felt so much better. And I do attest that to, one, the prayers, the manifestations, and two, to like the environment and the experience. I do think that led to just that mindset during the actual C-section. I think led to much better recovery, or easier. I guess I shouldn't use the word better, but an easier recovery. But yeah, I am going to insert the video. I think that's all I want to see. Yeah, I will insert the video of Jude meeting Lev for the first time. It is the cutest video in the world. It is so cute. She was just like, she seemed overwhelmed with joy and love too. I think she thought he was a toy at first maybe. And then she was like, that's why you guys have been gone so long. He got me this special toy. Who's that, Giro?
I also don't want to push him off.
Who is that? You love him? That's baby brother. He's funny.
You got me a toy that moves?
You see baby? You can say, hi baby.
Look, you. Who's this? That's your baby brother. You're dancing?
Yeah, she wants to hold it so bad. She loves him. You want to hold him? Okay, sit down. Oh. She loves him. Oh, so sweet, Jude. His name's Lev. Uh-oh. He's sad. Can you give him a kissy? Oh, so sweet, Gibro. He's hungry. Can you say Milky? Yeah, he likes Milky. You can definitely tell that she loves him. And overall, she definitely likes him. I think she is still a little bit confused by him. And she definitely doesn't like when he cries, which is fine. But if like we give him to her to hold, like when she's all done, she'll just like kind of push him away. My push present, you've probably seen in a few videos, the 222 bracelet that Corey got me. And that is the meaning behind Lev's middle name, Arlo. I feel like 222 is just his angel number. His due date was June 22nd. While I was pregnant with him, I kept seeing 222. We saw even something that said like 222 angel number in the parking lot at Target, very close to his due date. We were on our baby moon. I saw a big building with 222 on it. I just kept feeling that was his, obviously he's our second baby. Just a lot of things like that. I felt like 222 was his angel number. He saw it in his bedroom if you watched his nursery tour. And so I wanted something to signify that for my push present. I think we're adjusting well to being a family of 4. Definitely not perfect, definitely not easy, definitely chaotic at times. At any time I'm having a harder time, I always remind myself that I'm quite literally living my dream. This is what I've always wanted. I've always wanted to be a mom. It's probably the only thing in my life that, from being like literally a baby myself, like 4 or 5 years old, that I've wanted consistently throughout throughout my life, that's never wavered. When I was like 4 or 5 years old, I remember like begging to take care of my baby cousins, even though I was still like a baby. I just always wanted babies, and I always wanted to be a mom and take care of them. I always have to remind myself in my hardest days that this is what I dreamed of, and I'm just so lucky to be living this life with my 2 cutest babies. They really are so cute and so sweet, and I can't wait to see how the relationship develops as Lev gets older and like can interact with Jude more. Anyway, this has been a very long video, so I'm gonna end it here. I am planning on filming a 24 hours in life with a newborn and toddler. I'm not sure when I will film that, because I thought I'd be able to this week, but I haven't had the time, and that's fine. The next few videos probably are going to be quite baby related, but I definitely still want to film videos that aren't like baby kid related, because I know not everyone that watches my videos is a parent, and I just like want my YouTube channel to also be about me, but my life is very much centered around my babies. So yeah, anyway, I hope you liked hearing about my birth story and seeing all like the little clips that I inserted. I hope that it was entertaining and informing, and if you are having a C-section or a repeat C-section, I hope I helped to settle your nerves a little bit if you're feeling nervous, and I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. Bye.